what we're going to do here is take a look at some of the exercises that make my program different. This is the Above the Rim Athletics program, and this is some of the basic exercises that we do to make sure that our athletes are building the proper base: foot strength, spinal strength, flexibility in the hips, those sorts of things. So let's take a look at it. This first exercise here, performed by Danny, is just a lunge here. We bend it down, we drop the hips, and we're making sure that we're getting a lot of movement in the hips, stretching in the hip flexors and low back and everything. And it's really important to get that type of movement as an athlete. This next exercise is a very similar one. We're adding in the back stretch to it. This is just an active stretch. This is all really basic stuff. As we're doing this, we're just getting warmed up and getting stretched all at the same time. The next one we're going to do here is called an inchworm. What we're doing is getting mobility in the pelvis, getting the pelvis to move, getting that thing unlocked, which a lot of athletes have just a locked up pelvis, and they're fighting themselves instead of working the way that the body. In just a second here, we're going to go from the hip exercises to jumping rope, and I want to make a couple points on jumping rope. One is alignment. We're always staying up. Sometimes athletes end up bending forward in order to try to get forward momentum, but they end up fighting their body on the way up because they have to fight their body weight. So we're always staying up, proper tall posture. Our knee is over our second toe, and our feet are down spread. Our toes are spread just like fingers would be in order to grip something. You get them down, you get them spread out, and you're starting to get those toes activated in a way they probably haven't been activated before since you've been wearing shoes your whole life. These are everybody's favorite exercise, the pipe drills, and we've got stabilizers here with the wood dowels, just for safety's sake. It's actually very hard to get injured on these exercises because you can't roll your ankle all the way over because your foot will slide right off. So it's actually very safe. But these exercises are amazing for building up the arch in your foot, building up toe strength, building up proper alignment, because your body has to be aligned. You have to stay relaxed, and you can't be fighting it in this exercise. And we really focus on that. And that's a big thing with athletes, is their bodies get locked up because they're so tense. And sometimes it's from weightlifting, sometimes it's from other things. But you really got to learn to relax to be athletic. And these drills really teach that. We've got different ways that we go about it, and I'm not talking about each drill as we go through it, but just in a general sense, these pipe drills really allow an athlete to focus on the feet. Within even just a few seconds, they're going to start feeling the problems in their arches, how sore they're going to be starting getting. We've had plenty of athletes start to cramp up because they just flat out don't use their arches anymore, and this forces them to do it. So you can see in these exercises that the toes are being very active, the toes are being used. Our toes are meant to be similar to fingers. They're supposed to grab and grip and dig into our surface, and that's the way we were designed as humans. So this teaches us to start using those toes again, and it's very effective. They're very effective as shock absorbers to take the shock from the pounding, rather than having our heels taking that pounding and sending it through the rest of our body. Got to have great feet to make explosive movements. The feet have to handle the load. When we have X amount of energy in our legs, the only thing that actually gets to interact with the playing surface is our feet. It's not our legs that interact with it, it's our feet. So no matter how much energy we have in our legs, all that energy has to get translated into movement through our feet. So that's why we spend such a long time on the feet here. Some of the other drills that we are going through involving the foot strength and proprioception, which is a concept I won't go over in too much detail, but proprioception is basically the body's ability to recognize where it is in space. And that's huge in athleticism, being able to change directions, being able to make athletic movements and jumping and running, and especially changing directions. But your body has to be able to feel, without you looking at the ground, where it is. And all these drills teach you to do that. We've got the slant board exercises where we are doing squats on the slant board, toe raises on the slant board, just balancing on the slant board with balls raised above our head. And that just puts your foot at an awkward angle where you're constantly trying to make adjustments. You're making constant adjustments, and in doing these kind of exercises, you're actually exercising 25 times more muscle fibers than you would be by doing a basic weightlifting exercise. And these are the important muscles nonetheless that are getting strengthened, the ones that really have an effect on athleticism. And it encourages communication between the central nervous system and the muscular system, which is what an athlete needs. Whereas a lot of, and I'm not saying every weightlifting exercise is bad, but there's a lot of weightlifting type programs that actually discourage that kind of communication between the body, and it actually inhibits athleticism. So that's why we spend so much time, again, building that spinal strength, the central nervous system efficiency, and really building up the things that actually improve athleticism rather than muscle size or muscle tone or those sorts of things. And believe me, you'll get plenty of muscle size and muscle tone doing these exercises. A couple other points that I want to touch on is just how important the hips are. There's a lot of stuff in terms of stabilization that we're doing, these hanging ab exercises, the work on the ball, the ab work on the gymnastics ball, and all these things we're working on we're working on hip flexibility and strength. It's so important to get our hip flexors to be able to fire fast. It's very easy for me to be able to look at an athlete and tell if he has weak hip flexors. It totally inhibits them in terms of speed and running if you have weak hip flexors. It's just a movement you have to be able to do with your hip flexors in order to run fast, and you have to compensate throughout your body in other ways in order to make up for weak hip flexors. So we spend a lot of time on that. We spend a lot of time on those sorts of things. You'll see on the ball, a lot of these ball movements are probably things a lot of people haven't seen before. Some of them you may have, but bottom line is we're building strength through the spine. We're building a ton of core strength. We don't work the core, we work the entire body. The body isn't made up of biceps, triceps, and a core or whatever. It's actually an entire body that was meant to function together as one, so that's the way we work the body. And we just establish a tremendous amount of stability, a tremendous amount of balance, foot strength, spinal strength, central nervous system efficiency through these drills that we're doing. The order we do them in is important, and we just encourage an athlete to be able to operate at his optimum capacity. He can fully take advantage of some of those weightlifting programs that he's doing with these drills, and this is all the basics of what we're teaching. It gets certainly plenty more complex, but these are the type of things we're going to do when we're working on establishing a base for your athletes. We're going to get the foot strength, we're going to get the proprioception, the balance, the flexibility, especially in the hips and the hamstrings. We're going to get the central nervous system communicating with the skeletal muscles, and you're going to see an athlete that can make much more athletic movements in no time.